Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So I've been doing a lot of speed running, if you couldn't tell by my last few videos, and just recently I got a couple really cool runs and I want to show them to you. One of them was just a really weird seed that I somehow completed the run on, and another was a PB, so let's just get straight into it. Starting off on the weird seed, I spawned in a plains biome and I didn't see anything at first, but I decided to go over this hill because I thought maybe there'd be a village nearby. I didn't actually end up seeing a village, but I saw 2 lava pools and a ruined portal, so I decided to just see what was in that chest. And as it turned out, there was 3 obsidian in the chest, which was just enough to let me complete the portal as long as I mined this crying obsidian. So I did that and then went off to go get some tools because I didn't want to just run into the nether with nothing. Even though at this point I didn't actually think I was going to complete the run, and I was just doing it to see what would happen. So I got into the nether at nearly 3 minutes, which was pretty good pace for me, but there was one problem. I didn't have an iron pickaxe, and if you don't know, you can't mine gold blocks in the bastion without an iron pickaxe, so I was gonna need one of those. Oh, and did I forget to mention I spawned right by the fortress? Yeah, I turned around and saw it, so that was pretty surprising. And oh look, there's a chest down there. Well, I might as well go look in it, and there's 5 iron. So now I have an iron pickaxe. That problem's solved. But just then I realized I had another problem. I didn't have any food, so I decided to go kill these hoggins over here so I could at least get a couple pork chops. The first hoggin I killed was also kind of weird because it didn't really want to get close to me. I'm not quite sure why, but the second one was getting absolutely ganged up on by the piglins, so that kind of solved itself. And here's where I made a dumb mistake. You see, when I was E-raying, I didn't do a full 360, and there was actually a bastion behind me, but I thought I saw a spike in the opposite direction, so I started going there, but there was a wall there, so I just dug into the wall for like 3 minutes. But I eventually figured out my mistake and started going back in the opposite direction. I eventually spotted the bastion right behind the fortress, but it was right over a lava pool, so I had to bridge a long ways, but luckily I had all the blocks from digging in the opposite direction, so we were fine. There was also a ruined portal nearby on the way to the bastion, so I decided to check it, and I got 8 golden carrots from it, so now my food problem wasn't going to be a problem for a while. The bastion turned out to be treasure, and I accidentally dug in on the complete opposite side that I needed to be on, but it's fine because I just mined a bunch of blocks and then stacked up to where I needed to be. Also, while I was mining for those blocks, I switched to a golden pickaxe to make things quicker, and I didn't switch it back, so I definitely mined this gold block with my gold pickaxe. But it's fine because there's enough gold blocks and we don't need to talk about it, okay? After that, it was a pretty standard treasure bastion route, except for this ghast right here, which for some reason I always find ghasts in treasure bastions, but I just turned down my render distance and forgot about them. I also almost didn't get enough obsidian, which wouldn't have been fun, but luckily the chest had some in them, so I was fine. So after that, I left the bastion with some pretty good trades at around 20 minutes, but keep in mind, I already know where the fortress is, so this could be a good run. So I stacked up to it and immediately found a spawner, as well as a few good stray blazes, and I got a decent amount of blaze rods from them too. I also kind of got almost destroyed by this blaze right here because it hit 3 melee attacks on me in a row, but I ended up being fine, and once again I had some decent food that it was kind of dwindling at this point, but it was still okay. Once I got 8 blaze rods, I went over to this bridge and decided to blind in the middle of it, and what I thought was good quartz, but spoiler alert, they weren't. Knowing what I know now, I definitely should have gone further down the bridge, but oh well. Once I got to the overworld, I threw a couple eyes to see how far away it would be, even though I don't really know how that works, and then I got some more food from the nearby cows. And then began the very, very long journey to the stronghold. Like, I'll just speed it up for you here. It took like a good 5-6 minutes. It was like over 1,000 blocks, if I remember correctly. Like, it was a long run. And I was like throwing pearls. I went through boats. Like, the terrain was really cool looking, I'll be honest. But like, it was just a long run there. But I eventually found it, dug down, and the nav wasn't terrible. It took me about a minute to get to the portal room, which I'll take. Like, I definitely had way worse, so I won't complain. So I made it into the end at around 36 minutes, which I was kind of sad at this point, because if I had had a better blind, I definitely could have gotten a PB, but I ended up getting a PB the next day, so you'll see that in a minute. It also doesn't help that the dragon took forever to perch, but I eventually got it and finished with a time of 38:50. And also, just to prove how bad that blind was, I went back after I completed the run to see how far away it was, and it was over 1,300 blocks, so just super unfortunate, but that's okay. Because the very next day, I got a PB at around the same time of day, too. I spawned in on an island and spotted a shipwreck in the distance, so I just started swimming over there. I got 12 iron and 5 gold, which was perfect because I could make full iron tools plus a gold helmet, so I didn't have to worry about mining gold in the nether. After I got a few more pieces of wood from the shipwreck, I swam over to a nearby ravine that I had seen on the way there and built my portal. Once I got into the nether, I started doing my E-ray, but at first I didn't see a big spike in the numbers, so I was worried that there wasn't a bastion, but I went up to 20 render distance and I found one, so I started running in that direction. But I was in very not ideal circumstances, because I once again didn't have food, because all I got from the food chest on the ship was a single suspicious stew, and I was also running through a basalt delta, which is known for having really bad terrain. I also had to dig through another wall, which is just my favorite activity, and of course, the suspicious stew, once I ate it, gave me poison, so it left me off in a worse situation than I was in before. But once I eventually got through the wall, I spotted the bastion underneath a cliff, so I was good. And it was a bridge bastion too, so I could try and kill the hoglins there and get a little bit of food, but the one hoglin that spawned in died in the lava light place, so now I had no food. So I had to run around and gather mushrooms so I could make mushroom stew, because that was my only option at this point. After I got my food, I went through the bastion route and it went smoothly, but I only ended up leaving with 17 pearls, which was really bad, especially considering it was bridge, which has the most amount of gold. But I only ended up having to throw 2 pearls, and then I spotted the fortress in the wall, so all things worked out well. I also happened to walk right into the blaze spawner again, which was pretty good because that sped up my time a little bit. I also once again almost got completely destroyed by the blazes here, but they all spawned in at once, so it's not my fault. I really got good spawn rates here, and I'm not quite sure why, but I guess it bounced out because they didn't get fantastic blaze rod rates. But at near 21 minutes, I had all 8 blaze rods that I needed and just blinded right by the portal since I didn't even know where I was at this point. I was about 300 blocks out on each axis in the nether, which is like 3,000 blocks in the overworld, so it wasn't looking good. But I did spawn over an ocean, so I had high hopes that I would end up finding it exposed. Unfortunately, that never happened, and the stronghold ended up being a pretty fair amount away too, so I think I actually could have gotten sub 30 if it had been much closer. But I also lost a lot of time on what you're about to see now, and don't be disappointed in me, please. I stopped at a nearby island for a tree because I didn't actually have much wood, because remember, I spawned in a shipwreck. And I also spotted some cows and decided to get some extra food, because why not? But remember, I was on an island, and every single one of them ran into the water before I could kill them. And I only ended up killing one of them with actual cooked steak dropping. It was so annoying, and I was getting really mad. So after like 3 minutes of these shenanigans, I just left because I couldn't bear to be there anymore. I eventually ended up passing the stronghold, so I turned around and threw a couple more eyes, and eventually I pinpointed what I thought was the right chunk. Unfortunately, it ended up not being the right chunk, but it was fine because I still ended up digging into the stronghold anyway, so I guess that works. The nav was actually pretty terrible in this stronghold, and I ended up almost dying right here because there was a creeper in the room I ran into, but I eventually found the portal. It ended up being a 1 eye, which was actually pretty good because 2 of the 13 eyes I built along the way actually broke, so I got pretty lucky there. I did have some leftover ender pearls, but I wanted to save them for the actual fight, so that was good. But luckily, I got a pretty decent perch, and once again, I'll just let you enjoy the 1 cycle. Thanks for watching.